Welcome to Sports Overtime. We had a great week breaking down the biggest topics in sports on Southeast Sports Plus. Here's the best of.
It seems like they're starting to get the offense rolling, albeit it took until the second half in the game against Missouri. But is the defense starting to get just a little bit better for Sean Miller, or do we have to worry that he's going to say something crazy again about the defense?
No, it is getting a little bit better, and I think holding Missouri under 70 is pretty good evidence of that on their home floor. They don't, they don't do a lot of things that you need to do defensively that you think of. I mean, Titus is a big guy, but other than that, they don't have those rim protectors. They don't press enough to turn you over a lot and things like that. So it's just kind of, wall up and try to defend every possession. And then the offense is really efficient. And one of the questions today to Sean Miller was unbelievably, this could be his best offensive team. And that just doesn't feel like that. But when you look at the analytics and the efficiency and all that, they're a really good offensive team right now.
Absolutely. When you are struggling offensively, you kind of need a spark, and it feels like Dalen Swain has been that guy for this team so far. What do you make of where he is right now and just the ways that he can help lead this team as they move forward and be kind of that centerpiece along with guys like Titus and other players you've mentioned?
He's just really good.
Yeah.
And he does so many things well. When he hits a three, you're kind of surprised. Usually a defense will kind of challenge him to shoot it, and he'll pull the trigger. He doesn't create threes, but he can create so much. He's so good in not just the mid-range, but getting to the basket, using both hands, the left, the right, finishing plays. So it's a three-point opportunity instead of just two free throws. And, Sean Miller's talked about he's kind of the old school where you start recruiting them when they're a kid and they look one way. And if they are patient enough to let you develop them, you get to what you see now with a kid that's 6'7", 6'8", pushing 230 pounds, very gifted offensively. I'm not comparing it all, but when Kevin Durant came here in his freshman year, and I used to talk to Rick Barnes about him because he was so gifted offensively, you just didn't see that with freshmen.
Right.
Swain's not a freshman. He's not Kevin Durant, but he's very gifted offensively, meaning there's not just one thing he does or even two things he does. Now there have been a couple of games where he's, taken a while, he disappeared and then shown up. But for the most part, one of the most consistent players of any player on any team, I would think, in the nation. And you know what everyone's worried about now? All right, is he too good? Can they keep him for one more year? And it seems like he'll get his chance at the next level if he wants it. We'll see what he's thinking.
Absolutely. They say winning breeds confidence, and this is a confident group after 4 straight wins. Here's Coach Sean Miller.
Winning does breed confidence. I think it breeds confidence in our fans as well. I think I'll go back to what I began with here today is, hoping we have a great environment and a home court advantage, really like is required in February in the SEC tomorrow night against LSU. It's a big game for us. In terms of the confidence, with our team, there's also that fine line between, you start to win and take it for granted. You start to get away from maybe things that got you on the initial win streak. And that is, your process, working hard, trying to get better, feeling like you're cornered, playing with an edge, trying to fix the problems that have plagued you in the past.
What are some of the things that come to mind as they close out the regular season?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, guys. And I think the best way to describe it is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because they had that Vandy loss, which was tough. But, up until the Florida game, they had won 8 out of 9, obviously outside that Vandy game. And then even the Florida game, I don't know how well you all know UK fans, but one loss, the sky is falling no matter what happens. They could be undefeated. If they lost one game, it's over. Everything is done, not winning anything. But, even after the Florida game was probably the first one I've seen where Kentucky fans were like, you know what, we lost, we wanted to win, but we're not upset about it because they showed, obviously, they cut it to 4. Obviously, the final score wasn't that, but they missed a lot of layups. It was 15 layups. They missed 7 free throws. And, if you have those numbers, obviously don't know what Florida would have done, but Kentucky might have won that game, if you have all those misses.
Right.
So, it was riding high like we lost, but riding high, and then the Georgia game happens, which I believe is a quad 2 loss, which obviously is not great for the resume. But I mean, it's just been a roller coaster because you have these blowout losses to Gonzaga, a game that I went to, Michigan State, and then Vandy. But then you beat an Arkansas, you beat a St. John's, you beat Tennessee, come back against Tennessee twice. So it's just kind of hard to know. You know, Mark Pope likes to say they're figuring it out all the time. I mean, you got 5 games left, so you kind of have to really start figuring it out. But I think the best way to describe it is a roller coaster, guys.
We've talked a lot on this show about Kentucky and their $22 million roster, kind of compared it to Kansas last year, and Kansas didn't end up having the season that they wanted to have. Otega-Oweh played a lot of minutes in this game against Georgia. Do you feel like Mark Pope might be mismanaging some of these games? Because it seems like there's growing tension with the fan base and Mark Pope.
I mean, Mark Pope did say after the Georgia game that he has to manage those minutes with Otega-Oweh, Colin Chandler, and Denzel Aberdeen. He said he has to be better with that. But at the same time, I mean, Otega is clearly the best player. Colin Chandler's probably a close second. He's kind of Captain Clutch. That's his nickname around here in Lexington, with all his big threes and big plays, and some of those come from behind wins that they've had this season. But I mean, I would say that, yeah, because the rotations are getting a little frustrating for Kentucky fans, because it's been a lot of, you know, Otega gets hot or someone gets hot and then Pope takes them out. It's like, you know, they're rolling. That's always, you know, do you go with the best player or do you go with the guy who, you know, is red hot, you know, because obviously Otega tied a career in points. He scored 28 points. And, you know, he could have kept going, but, you know, they have to sub guys in and out. And especially with the injuries, I mean, they need to protect Otega as much as he can, because if he does go down, I mean, it could spell disaster for Kentucky, because obviously in Pope's first 2 years, injuries have kind of been the thing, because you don't really know what the potential was, because Jalen Lowe, starting point guard's out. Cam Williams, probably their best defender, honestly, is out. And then obviously the future lottery pick, Jaden Quaintance, you know, has only played 4 games this year. So it's a lot of what ifs right now. But I would agree that the minutes management has kind of been a thorn in the side, both of Pope and Kentucky fans.
Patrick, we were talking about this game on Friday last week, and just the implications that it could have. The reason I went with Florida is I think that these two teams will split at the end of the year, because they'll play later on at Rupp Arena. I just think that Florida right now is playing with a confidence and an identity that I don't know if anybody else in the SEC can match right now.
Yeah, and I mean, going into that Kentucky game, I want to say we talked about this last week, where they're up 100 points over this 4-game win streak. Right. Now they're going to be up 110 points with this 9-point win over Kentucky on Saturday. And it seems like this team is starting to become more and more complete as the games start to unravel here, as we go down the stretch. In the beginning of the season, we talked about, you know, these bigs in Houck and Condon and their ability to bring that experience from last year's national championship winning team and help out these guards. Albeit they're not young, but they haven't played at Florida before coming into this season, and they transferred in. It allowed them to get acclimated with the system, with Todd Golden's system, and we've really started to see both Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee really step up for this team, and that's been honestly the X factor here as of late.
Right. One of the things I talked about last week was the fact that in their last, I think it was 8 games, they had like 5 different leading scorers, and so they don't have to rely on just one person. And I think that taking that pressure off Boogie Fland, he struggled at the beginning of the season. Seemingly he has found his stroke, but then a guy like Xavier Lee steps up with 22 points on Saturday, and it's like, oh wow, this team can find different ways to beat you. So I feel like no matter who the opponent is, whatever their strengths are, I feel like, and it could be proven wrong, I feel like Florida can nullify a lot of those strengths.
Yeah, and I almost kind of want to relate Xavier Lee to one of those top recruits out of high school, because in a way, playing at Princeton in the Ivy League, and again, Princeton is a great program.
For sure.
They just took down Auburn a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. It almost feels like you're the guy on the high school team that's dropping 25, 30 points a night. You're committed to a Division I school. So you're going up against a bunch of dudes that are getting ready to go learn about what job they want to get. I mean, just average people. Like you go from dominating your local scene to the step up where everyone is as good as you.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you're not the guy anymore.
Right.
And I almost get a sense of that's what Xavier Lee was kind of going through when he made the move from Princeton to Florida. He wasn't really the guy anymore at Florida because they had these other guys and Hauken Condon, who just won the national championship. So he almost had to reinvent himself in a way, and I feel like that's really what he's been able to do here.
Absolutely. Todd Golden's done, probably a phenomenal job. I mean, he might be the coach of the year, and I know given expectations because of what they went through last year, but just the mid-season kind of turnaround with this group. I think he's just been pushing all the right buttons so far with this group. Got a chance to hear from Coach on both Xavier Lee and as well as taking out the superstar for the Kentucky Wildcats in Owen.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing great, right? I mean, he was fantastic at Georgia. He was great at Vanderbilt. He's stacked some really good games over the last couple weeks. And I thought he was fantastic today. Just got off to a great start, knocking shots down. To your point, he did a really good job of playing, with great patience in the paint, playing off two, making good decisions, and he gave us a big lift. Obviously, him and Irby shooting the ball the way they did allowed us to win the game the way we did today. Yeah, I mean, a big part of our scout was, to make it tough on obviously Ortega and Zell, and they went 12 for 35 combined from the field, 1 for 9 from 3. I thought we did a really good job of defending those guys. They were trying to score, and we knew that, and so we wanted to keep 2 on the ball when they were getting downhill. Kind of force them into those playmaking decisions, and overall it was really good for us. And the things that hurt us were other things, like I thought we did a really poor job on Chandler, letting him get some space. I thought we did a poor job on Diabate, letting him get left. So, big picture-wise, I thought, scouting-wise, we did a decent job, in the main parts of, what we were trying to accomplish, but the auxiliary stuff really bothered us and allowed Kentucky to stay in the game.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime, and remember, you can watch our show, Southeast Sports Plus, from 2 to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device.
Last night is the night that you just love to see if you're a college basketball fan.
100%.
I mean, we had Creighton upset UConn.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really saw that coming.
Right.
We talked about yesterday, unfortunately, and I'm sorry, Mississippi State. I didn't really give you a chance against Auburn, but Josh Hubbard just turns into Superman, and Mississippi State hands Auburn their 5th loss in a row. And then you have this game, which I fully agree with you. This is probably the best game of the season to this point for sure. It might go down as the best game of the season once it's all said and done. But, I mean, you had absolutely everything in this game. You had, honestly, pretty decent defense. I know the final score doesn't really indicate that, but again, it was a 50-minute game because there was 2 overtimes, 117 to 115. You had good scoring. That guy right there, LeBaron Philon, we've been talking about him all year. He's kind of been that leader for Alabama. He really stepped up last night, and I'm still speechless at how good this game actually was and how much offense there actually was in it.
Yeah, this is one of those few games where you see the point spread, then you see the total, and it's going to be a high-scoring game. The total ended up landing 184, 185, so you expected the game to be in the 90s. First half, it started to seem to go that way. Then you add to the fact that you have 2 of probably the best guards in the conference, and Darius Acuff and LeBaron Philon. Both those guys lived up to the billing. It's just so few times that the game lives up to the hype, and then the stars also play and live up to the hype. And at the end, it felt like a game that you didn't want any team to lose because I felt bad for Darius Acuff. He scores almost 50 points in a losing effort. LeBaron Philon, it's 32 points and an unbelievable game there as well. So you had a lot of back and forth. I think this game came down to the margins. It came down to, the lack of depth for Arkansas. It came down to the playmaking from Alabama and being able to get another star, some of their points included. We'll focus on Bama first, then shift over to Arkansas. But it just seemed to me that this game, overall, if you just love college basketball and you're not an NBA fan, this gave you the closest thing to the NBA but with the intensity that you love in college basketball.
Right, and I think, as I've said on the show a few times, Alabama is probably as close to an NBA style. I'm not saying talent-wise that they're the equivalent of the NBA, but the style of offense that Nate Oates runs, it's the closest thing to the NBA that we see. And we talk about LeBaron Philon. He had those 35 points, a new career high, dished out 7 assists as well, and it was just such a monster game. But as you mentioned, it almost feels like sometimes we hype up these matchups. We were hyping this one up pretty big yesterday. Top 25 matchup, 2 great guards coming into this game. Sometimes they can be duds.
Yes.
Sometimes, it's just so one-sided that it's like, man, why did we spend all this time hyping up this game for it to just end like this? But I want to go back to something that I was talking about when Charles Bediako was deemed ineligible to continue. And it almost might have been a blessing in disguise for some of these players, because I talk about stunting growth of some of these players. And one guy that really grew last night was Aiden Sherrill. And I think with Bediako not being on the floor anymore, it opens up a spot for Sherrill to have a larger role for this team.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime. And remember, you can watch our show, Southeast Sports Plus, from 2 to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device.
You want to talk about some of the guys that are really dominating the golf game right now? Talk about Scotty Scheffler, and if he was just, I don't know what Scotty's doing, but I don't know if he's like trying to give the rest of the field a handicap on day 1 and 2. I mean, last week he was +2 heading into the week after round 1 of the Waste Management, came back, finished 1 shot shy of the playoff. This week really did not have a great start. I want to say he finished, goodness, like 20 under in his last 50 holes or something. Just absolute ridiculousness. 3 eagles yesterday for a final round 64. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but then you also have at the amateur ranks Jackson Koivin and what he's been able to do. 2 wins in 2 starts this spring season. And we talked with Nick Kleinert before the spring season started, and we talked to him about Jackson, and it's just been absolutely unreal what he's been able to do. 7 wins now, becomes Auburn's all-time wins leader. And he's still in his junior year. And I mean, we've got guys like Jason Duffner that have gone through the Auburn program. And I mean, he's just one name, but it's been absolutely insane. And I think some of his peers on the team said, based on metrics alone, he's a top 10 golfer in the world. Just based on golf metrics and just like swing speed, stuff like that. All of the, like, I want to call them saber metrics because that's what we call them in baseball. Like if you were to do that in golf, he would be a top 10 player in the world. And I mean, he is just going to be an absolute dominating force for years to come.
He has absolutely been a beast. You referenced the fact that we talked to Coach Nick Kleiner before. He said that this is one of, if not the best golfer he's ever coached. This is a guy that's won a national championship before. Let's hear from Coach earlier this month.
He drives the ball great. He's a great putter. So anytime, driving the golf ball is really important on the PGA Tour. And if he drives it pretty well, then he's going to have, green lights every hole. And he's a great putter. Anything, inside 20, 25 feet, like it's going to go in every time he hits it. And, I think look at the success he's had. He's had, 4 top 11s on the PGA Tour. And, I think he's got a chance to be one of the great next American players in the game when he decides to turn pro, whenever that is. But I'll say this for Jackson, like his mindset, as I mentioned, I mean, it's phenomenal. And he's just trying to get better. He doesn't play for the money. He plays for trophies. And he legitimately wants to be the best player in the world. And he's going to do everything in his power to get there. And it's going to be fun to watch his progression over the next 10, 15, 20 years.
I love that coming from a guy that sees him day to day and understands that this is not just a talent thing. He's actually physically working on. He's already a talented player, period, as far as just God-given talent. But he's working on that every day to become one of, if not the best player in the world. I find that really refreshing because it can be easy to rest on your laurels, so to speak, but he's not there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. You always hear from these coaches about those first guy in, last guy out type athletes, and I feel like that's exactly who Jackson is. And it just goes to show that on the course. I mean, it's clear and evident that he puts in a ton of work to get better. I mean, I see Auburn golf YouTube videos all the time where these golf content creators are going in, taking visits of the facility, and it seems like in every single video, Jackson is in the background on one of the hitting bays or whatever, doing putting, working on his wedge game, anything. It just seems like he is always there. And, you know, we call those guys gym junkies. It feels like he's like a range junkie.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Overtime tonight. Remember, you can watch our show, Southeast Sports Plus, Monday to Friday from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Apple TV, Roku, or Fire TV device. Good night.